and we've accepted all of them. Effective Saturday, 12:01 a.m. Indoor gyms and fitness centers will be closed. Outdoor.
That's how it starts. The fever, the rage that turns good men.
Restaurants and bars.
So, back in July, I started to lose my mind from a lack of exercise. It got to the point where even me doing calisthenics in the park no longer, was an option because the police literally showed up and told me to leave because I am not following proper social distancing. And to be honest, with me having about as much confidence in our politicians as I do in my ability to grow my calves, I decided to build a basic and small but awesome home gym. Now, I know what you guys are thinking. I mean, at this point right now, YouTube is pretty much flooded with guys like me doing videos like this. However, there is kind of a big differentiating factor in my case specifically, and that is because I'm doing this in a condo. Because unlike the people who live in like Utah or Texas or wherever, I unfortunately do not live in a place where I can buy an acre of land for less than a PlayStation. Which does suck, but I mean, it's kind of the price I pay for living in literally the biggest city in all of Canada. I mean, it's like living in New York and then complaining because your apartment doesn't have a rooftop terrace or an outdoor patio. It's like, bitch, unless you're paying $1 million, you are lucky if you get a fucking window. Welcome to my hyperbolic time chamber, otherwise known as the second bedroom in my condo. But this is it, guys. This is what I'm going to be working with until this pandemic is behind us and probably even into the future. So yes, it is probably not the best scenario. I mean, I'm literally doing this in a room. As you guys can tell, I did the measurements. This room is around 10 by 9 feet. Yeah, definitely the name of the game today for this video is space. And also I just want to clarify, I don't want to toot my own horn or anything, but for any of you watching this video being like, oh, Igor, God, you couldn't get a bigger place, you couldn't get a house? I guess how broke are you? This place cost $700,000 for 800 square feet. Welcome to Toronto. Starting with the main piece of equipment, the piece de resistance, the power rack. This is a company called Gorila Fitness. They're very similar to Rogue Fitness, which is obviously a much bigger American company, except this one is actually Canadian. And to me, the reason I went with them is that they seem very similar to Rogue in terms of overall build quality. However, it was just a lot less expensive. Because number one, it's in Canadian currency, which is like what, 75 cents on the dollar when compared to the American dollar. Shipping was so much simpler. 90 inches tall, regular kind of like thin pull-up bar at the top. And also I do want to mention that because it is a half rack, it's not a full rack, the safety bars, kind of like these safety spotter bars, was mandatory. Well, it's not mandatory, but if you don't feel like dying, it does help. Next up, the actual weights. These ones, unlike the squat rack, I did cheap out a little bit because honestly, I don't see any reason why to spend any extra because it doesn't have to do anything. All I have to do is exist and be matter. In this case, 45 pounds worth of matter. So besides, not falling apart and also being round, I didn't really see any reason to spend any extra. I got about 400 pounds in total. Once again, everything, back when I bought this in July, everything was sold out. Guys, it literally seemed like the entire North American economy just shut down. It got very difficult. I was very fortunate enough to find some guy on Kijiji who was selling everything because this guy literally went before the pandemic hit. He saw it coming People talk about like the grind mentality, the hustle. This guy is the epitome of that. Him and his friend, they went to York Barbell back in like February, spent 40 grand pretty much buying out their entire stock, and then over the next few months started selling it at a hefty, profit margin back to people like me who are desperate. I was actually talking to them when I picked it up, and they pretty much sold out their entire inventory for just over 100 grand. So 40 to 100, we're talking like what, 2.5 times profit? That is smart. And at the end of the day, I'm just happy to be able to get my hands on anything at all. Some other alternatives, Rogue makes a fantastic array of different, variety of plates. They have the competition plates. These are, in addition to looking very pretty and being very thin, which is a bit of a bonus, they're also calibrated to be exactly the weight that it's supposed to be. So 45 pounds is 45 pounds. Whereas these, I actually weighed these. I put these on a scale, and I found out that pretty much universally, every single one of my 45-pound plates actually weighs 46. Now, it's not the end of the world because it is only 1 pound per plate, but it does add up. Let's say you're really jacked and strong and you're lifting 5 plates. That's technically 495 pounds. Well, you've got 10 plates total, 1 pound per plate, that's 10 pounds. Suddenly you're lifting 505 and you may not know it unless you weighed every plate individually, like I did. Next up, the barbell, another piece of equipment which I did, to be honest, kind of break the bank on. This is the Rogue Ohio power bar, and I got this in black Cerakote, I have no idea how to pronounce it. The black fancy paint stuff that goes on top to protect it from things like rust and scratching and so on. And once again, it was completely sold out. Everything was sold out. I was lucky enough because I actually found some guy selling this on Kijiji, pretty much completely unused. It cost me 700 fucking Canadian dollars, which converts to around 520 USD. Some other alternatives, again, all of which were sold out when I was personally looking, but in case you guys are watching this in the future, these are some things you might want to consider. You have like probably the most standard barbell in the world, which is excellent, is the standard 28.5 millimeter power bar from York Barbell. It's a little bit cheaper than this. I think it was like a solid $100 in savings. Still an excellent bar. The one thing I don't recommend is don't go to your local like commercial fitness store, like Fitness R Us or something, or go to like Amazon or Walmart and get like the shittiest $100 barbell. Yes, it might weigh, it might have the very basics checked off. It weighs 45 pounds and it's 7 feet long, give or take. But that's about it. I actually had a friend once who injured himself pretty bad because he used a falling apart, old, broken barbell at the gym. He was doing a regular deadlift with like 225. It wasn't even that much. One of the collars like slipped right off, and then he kind of lost his balance. And it I don't know what happened, but something like pulled a tendon or something happened in his ass, like literally in his glute. And for 2 years, he was dealing with a pretty bad chronic injury. He had to get MRIs, he had to go to physio. It was just a friggin' nightmare, all because he used a shitty barbell. If there's ever a time for something to break or for something to like fall apart, it's not when you're holding hundreds of pounds in your hand. Take it from him and his broken ass. And finally, for the last few things, I just want to quickly go over them. So we're going to do a little bit of a lightning round. Number one, we got a tiny set of dumbbells right here. We got 5s, 10s, and 20s. These, I actually paid nothing for them because they are my girlfriend's. The bench is some random no-name local company. That being said, it has absolutely everything I need. It's got wheels for rolling. It's extra thick, so seems like it could support a lot of weight. It seems relatively heavy duty and commercial grade. It's adjustable, and overall I'm pretty damn happy with it, especially considering it only came out to around $350. This is a far cry from the ludicrous prices I see for what to me seems honestly very similar. I don't know what the hell the Rogue bench is going to do, considering they have one which is approaching $1,000 fucking dollars. Like, is this thing gonna do my taxes for me? No? Then I think I'll pass. $30 for the pair of barbell collars. And one additional thing we have right here is actually a second bar. This is an easy bar, which you can use for things like bicep curls, tricep, easy bar extensions, or skull crushers. Just something additionally to help me, particularly with my arm training, especially more smaller, slightly lighter isolation exercises. And overall, that about does it for the main gym equipment. But the last thing I do want to mention, and this is actually very important, is the flooring. Because in my case, since we are dealing with a condo, this is hardwood floors, and we do have people living under me, it wasn't good enough to just assume that we're going to protect the floors and that's about it. In my case, the additional worry was overall sound absorption and, not getting 1,000 noise complaints from my downstairs neighbors. So what I had to do was, number one, I got this rug. It's not really that thick. It's just a regular rug to add a little bit of additional noise suppression and a tiny bit of protection, whereas the most of the protection actually comes from these bad boys. These are 3/4 inch and they are very heavy. This is half of one. I cut it in half. These cost me a grand spanking $30 each, totaling $90 for all three of these, and I could not recommend them enough. And guys, now the moment you have all been waiting for, the final amount I spent on everything that you have seen in this video is $3,014 US dollars. And also, once again, I do want to preface that this is the final total price, which includes everything such as, shipping, duties, import fees to get it here, and also our fantastically high sales tax rate of 13%. This, you have to remember, is a very long-term investment. I plan on keeping all of this equipment for the next 10, 20, 30 years. I want to still have this when I'm like 50 years old and hopefully still lifting. I want to have this for my kids to work out in. Unless, of course, my son doesn't work out, which is totally okay because we can always stick him under the stairs and make him live there like Harry fucking Potter. So guys, that's about it for me. However, the last thing that I do want to say, considering this is a special moment, we need to kind of, christen this. I would like to name this gym setup the VitruvianPhysique Hyperbolic Time Chamber, and I'm dedicating it to a few very special individuals. Number one, we got that son of a bitch who decided to eat a fucking pangolin and destroy the entire planet. Number two, we have everybody's favorite communist regime led by Winnie the Pooh. And number three, this is for the Ontario government, which has decided to lock me down for the next 2 years until a vaccine comes out, God knows when. All three of you are encouraged to go fuck yourself because you ain't stopping my gain train.